Welcome to 52 Weeks of Gaming. As always, I'm just going to go and pass it along to him so he can go and tell us what game he's playing this week. So, Nick, take it away. So this week is Everspace, which I know zero about except that it was on Game Pass and it involves spaceships in outer space because spaceships would be in outer space, and that's about as much as I know. So, absolutely clueless like always, and we're going to see how I do. We're going to see what I think. We're going to see what I say or hear what I say, and that will be at the end of the week, so stay tuned. So Everspace is a game made by a company called Rockfish Games, and that's who also published it. It's a game that came out in 2017 on a number of different platforms: PlayStation, Steam, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, all of those sorts of things. Even has VR support for things like the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. And the game is interesting because it's considered a roguelike game, so just the constant fighting and the whole genre that fits into there with its different progressions that you kind of have throughout the game of being able to jump back in with a new character essentially after your character dies, and you kind of have this progression and missions that continued and carried over into the current run that you have, or the following runs can be influenced by it. You can fly a ship in first person or third person, so it really depends on the perspective that you want to go and do. And they do have some pretty in-depth weapons and customization that you can go and do to your ship for it. So it's not something that each run is going to be the same because of how the non-linear setup of the game is. Each run's going to go and be different, but in more detail, we're going to have Nick go and talk about that now. So, Nick? So this week was Everspace, which is a game where you fly a spaceship in outer space, because where else would you fly a spaceship? And you gotta basically get through these different sectors, and you have to make sure you're managing your health essentially and your fuel and things along the way. So you have to find fuel, and sometimes it involves fighting enemies or finding mineable fuel, or getting containers, or doing trading, or finding a service station, or all these different things for it. But it's this game that kind of has you go through what's called sectors, and you go through these sectors, and after each area where you could jump through it, you go to these different zones, and they have different risks, and you kind of go through it. And there is an overall story to it, which I will say from the beginning was slightly confusing to me because I didn't get to the point where it was story progression. So after you get to each sector for the first time, there's a bit of story progression, and then once you get to the later sectors, even within there to the different zones, you kind of have a bit of story that's coming up. But I didn't know what was going on at first, and so I didn't know story-wise. I'm like, oh, why can't after this ship blows up, am I in the second one? Is it the same person? Is it a different person? And all this stuff. And it does, spoiler alert, turn out that you're playing as this guy's clones. And so pretty much each time you die, just another clone is in a ship that goes off and continues on. And so there's this kind of backstory about the character remembering everything from the original person's life, kind of, but they're not supposed to. And so I'll be honest, I didn't get far enough to kind of figure it out because kept dying before then, because you get to a certain point and then the risks are higher and you have to really outmaneuver people, and the controls are super easy, which I guess is something to go and point out is outside of just talking about the overall concept of the game. The controls are super easy. You can invert them if you want. I don't do that because I would suck at flying that way, even though that's how controls actually are. And it's just like flying any sort of other ship. So in Halo, it would be like flying a Banshee, or any sort of flying game, like a plane, like a flight simulator sort of thing. That's the phrase I was looking for. That's really what it's like. But it's a lot of fun. At first, I was a little bit hesitant towards it, but the more I played it, the more I started to like it. And I want to say, not that it's an exact replica of the game, but the one that it reminded me most of when I was playing it is a game that I played before for 52 Weeks of Gaming called Race the Sun, where it was kind of like each round through it was a different ship and kind of like starting over, and this whole mentality of that kind of idea of you're back to the beginning, starting over. Sure, you might be able to improve things a little bit, but you're kind of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and you try to progress a bit farther each time just by learning how to go and do things. And that's kind of what Everspace was that each time that I played, I did get a bit further because I was understanding the game a bit more and how to go and manage things. So like, for example, I went into one zone in a sector where I had probably about 7 fuel, and you need a roughly like 25 fuel to go and do a jump to a new section. And so I was like, well, I have to turn on the neutral characters because I need fuel, and their ships are going to have fuel, so I need to take them down, which then made them hostile towards me for the next few areas. But it was something that I had to go and kind of calculate and be like, shoot. And I was trying to figure out ahead of time and couldn't find any. And each area is like, I want to say procedurally generated, because there's like an overall theme, but not every single sector is exactly the same, and the sections aren't the same, and the paths inside those sectors aren't the same. And so you're not going to really end up on the same map twice. Yeah, there might be bits that are going to be kind of the same from other different sections, but overall each map is different, which means that each playthrough is different. And that's what, to me, makes a fun game, is something like that. You're not having to deal with something where it's kind of, you know what's coming ahead, which is still nice, but the kind of randomness to it does make it your own experience each time. And that's something that I really enjoyed, was having that experience to it and being able to kind of make it my own and bring it into my own. And it's a fun game. It is something that I really, really enjoyed playing. So that's really why. So as always, who would want to go and play a game like this? I think anyone who likes like flight simulators, or outer space or sci-fi, or really any sort of game like that would really like this game. It's kind of made more definitely for the sci-fi people, and again, there's the story as it goes along, but that's who I would say is the core group to really play it. And also, as always, do you think you're gonna want to keep playing this game? Yeah, I definitely think I'm gonna go and keep playing it. I think it's something that I enjoyed so much that I kind of want to know what the story is going to be, and so it might not be something that I'm going to put all this super large amount of time into, but it's definitely something that I'm going to go and play and try to go and get to the end of the story, because I want to know what happens at the end. And I mean, it's just a fun game in general. So yeah, that is my plan. Bum 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 bum.